I Own It will give you a front row seat to the positioning, bold moves, and sometimes the dog-eat-dog negotiations that go on behind the scenes of the deals that break the norms, set the precedent, and become the case study we devour as we harness our craft. Welcome to the season. Leverage. You got it or you don't. On this week's episode, we sit down with Sally Colon. Stay tuned. Sally, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben.
New season's about leverage.
Okay.
And so everyone has different perspectives, Sally, on leverage. Mm-hmm. What does leverage mean to you?
Well, I'm in entertainment.
Yep.
I'm a filmmaker. So for me, it's important to have leverage on both sides. As a filmmaker, there are people that need my help getting their story out. But for me as a filmmaker, it's really important for me to have leverage in my contacts, financial leverage, because I can't make movies without money. So those are some of the important parts of leverage for me and what I do.
When did you first learn about leverage?
I feel like I've always maybe known,
right?
Even as a kid,
leveraging
like favors from your friends, leveraging what I need from my parents. But yeah, I don't think you can go about life without having some form of leverage and need and understanding of what it is. I think it's important to have that.
Can you go back to one of the moments where leverage, you're in a situation, what side were you on?
I would say probably my latest film, Women Like Us, that is up on Apple TV now. We didn't have money starting out, so it was really important for me to contact people that I knew that had some financial, stability that I can go to and say, hey, would you be willing to, invest in this film? Which is a hard thing to do sometimes.
It sure is.
Because people don't want to let go of their funds unless there's some guarantee that it's coming back to them. So I would say probably that was one of the biggest sort of stressors where I had to use leverage in my contacts and making some phone calls to raise the money for the film. So that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, we raise money every day for commercial real estate. And so what did you learn from that experience, and how would you implement, how have you implemented it since you've learned about leverage in that experience?
It was stressful,
right.
I will say, because anytime you want to ask for money, it's always a stressful thing. But, I think it's a little bit easier for me now because I do have a successful film. So I think leveraging investors and, people in my circle is a little bit simpler because they see that I'm a successful filmmaker. And so it's not as stressful. But I also, on the other side of that, have been an investor myself. So just recently I invested in a film that one of my friends came to me and said, there's this film, we need extra post funds. And so I decided to invest in their film, which is exciting for me because if it's successful, it's a good payback. So, yeah.
One of the secrets I could share with you about raising equity is I call it the Birkin bag theory. So for you women out there, that Birkin bag is exclusive and rare.
Yes. And very expensive.
Very expensive. That's how we sell our investments. So when you're pitching a film to an accredited investor, a high net worth individual, think about it as a Birkin bag. Okay. It's exclusive. And if someone doesn't want to come and invest in your film, it's their loss because you have one of the greatest assets out there. And if that's your mindset, it will create abundance. It's worked. I've been doing it for 30 years and it's worked. So.
Yeah, no, I like that thought.
Yeah.
I feel like before my film became successful, I probably didn't feel that way. But now that it is successful, I do
right.
come into meetings a little bit more confident,
Right.
you know, like with the nice shoes on. You know,
That's
I got
right.
my Valentinos on, by
Right.
the way. But no, just really feeling confident in, I know who I am as a filmmaker. I know I can make a great film.
Right.
So it is your loss if you don't invest.
Right.
That is how I think now, yeah.
And your leverage is not only knowledge of the business, but your track record. All these things culminate to leverage,
Yeah.
which will propel you to great success. So how has self-acceptance leverage in your personal life and your professional career?
That's a great question. Besides being a filmmaker, I'm also a certified life coach. So I've learned a lot about how to process, even rejection. How do you process rejection? How do you process the no's in life? And I think for me, because I've done the work on myself, it's easier to process through the harder times when you do go to an investor and they say no. Now I kind of go, okay, cool, moving on to the next one.
That's right.
So I think putting work into yourself too, and not allowing certain emotions to project out. Keep that stuff in, like process through it and then react to something or respond, I would say.
Right, and awareness creates leverage.
Absolutely.
And so when you can balance and manage your emotions, you can you could respond instead of react, and that creates great leverage. So you're very ambitious,
Yes,
which
I am.
I love. Okay, and you're from Chicago,
Hey,
which is
Chi-Town.
I mean, double whammy.
Yeah,
So you have such a great can-do attitude.
I do.
That's created leverage in your professional career. Tell me about how this has helped you, your ambition and can-do attitude that creates this leverage for you to keep going. And because filmmaking is a tough business.
Very tough.
Let's not sugarcoat it.
No, it's tough.
But you've been able to figure it out. So
Yeah.
how have you used leverage in this experience?
Well, when you, starting from the beginning, for me, I've always, since I was 6 years old, I watched Wizard of Oz and I said, whatever that feeling is that I'm feeling right now, I'm going to make other people feel that. And I knew at the age of 6, I'm going to be a filmmaker. And, I started doing it all in Chicago. I became, in front of the camera first, actress. I started in pageants, beauty pageants actually. And then I'm also a singer. So within all of that, finding an agent to get me out there and knowing when I booked my first commercial, I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm good at this. And I feel like now that I have had success because I've powered through it, I didn't wait for somebody to knock on my door, even with my film. I took the first $25,000. My mom passed away. She left money. And I said, I'm going to go shoot a film. I didn't wait for someone to say, hey, do you want to do a film? No, I'm going to do a film. And I think because of that, people have respect for me now. I'm part of some big organization like Women in Film. I'm part of Film Fatales, which is women directors in Hollywood. So I'm starting to, build this reputation where now I feel so confident in it that sky's the limit. I don't know if you know, well, I was on the Sherry Shepherd show yesterday.
Yes.
That's national television.
Right.
So once you hit that point, now you're like, all right, like there's no, even if I get a no, like it's, again, their loss, because I've gotten to the point in my life where I have reached that kind of pinnacle point in the entertainment business. And for women, that's not an easy thing.
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Sally just mentioned that she uses her film to create leverage for herself. I want you to ask yourself, what do you do to create leverage? Are you liking social media posts? Are you helping and serving others? Ask yourself, what can you do to make a difference? So you have a lot of life experiences and a media executive background that has brought insights and leverage to your craft as a coach. Explain how leverage has helped you as a coach.
Well, I wouldn't have leverage if I didn't take the time to get educated. So I feel like the education that, I've decided to go back to school, learn to help people with mental illness, which, by the way, I don't know if this is too deep, but the reason I even became a life coach is because my dad committed suicide.
Oh, okay.
And because of the mental illness, that he was struggling with in silence, basically. We knew some of it, but we didn't know how deep it was. So for me, I went back to school because I wanted to help other people that were dealing with, suffering in silence. So my education, I think, is what's helping me with the leverage right now. It's just the understanding of how do I help people that are in need, that are hurting right now. So that's, just putting the work in,
You mentioned you put work in. I'm
Yeah.
also big into personal development as well. What do you do for your own health and on a daily routine that helps you provide leverage?
I'm a huge reader.
Okay.
I read weekly. I love, the nonfiction books. I read, I'm a big Brene Brown fan. I'm a big, Mel Robbins. There's so many great writers out there. Right now I'm reading a book called It's Not You, which is all about narcissism. Because how many of us deal with narcissists all day long? They're everywhere, especially in my business, entertainment, because everybody's trying to be a star or be somebody.
Right.
So I watch a lot of videos. I'm constantly on YouTube. If I'm struggling with something, let's say I'm with a friend and there's some struggle there, I will go online and look up that topic and just watch videos on it. I'm constantly learning. I don't think I'll ever arrive, and I'm okay with that. Like, I want to continue building, learning. And, business is something which is kind of funny because I've been such a creative. I've never really tapped in too much into the business world. Like, I'm intrigued by it. But that's something I want to start reading business books. I want to learn more about how to leverage financial. Because when you're creative, you don't really think about the finances, but you can't do anything without it. So that's a really important thing for me right now, to read some. Maybe you can recommend some business books, because I do want to learn more.
It's not only business. What I found in business is taking this holistic approach, is mastering yourself.
Yeah.
So now in commercial real estate is something I'm an expert in as an owner and landlord. We own commercial real estate around the United States. But it goes beyond that. It's how do you master yourself, because there's so many things to use leverage in relationships, serving people, communication, your knowledge. So leverage is more powerful than money.
Right.
And so there's so many different aspects of leverage that can help you throughout life. So one of the things I admire about you, because I have a lot of women that work at my company Alliance, and I empower women. I have a lady I am training to take over my role in the next few years. How does empowering women around the globe create leverage?
Ooh, you're speaking my language now.
Well, we have to do research.
No, I love it. Thank you for doing that. My film is all about, it's called Women Like Us, and it's all about women that are creating change in the world. And I think with me using that film as leverage to change people's lives, is that's like my top priority right now. Yesterday I told you the Sherry Shepherd show, and she asked me a question about women and how women have not given themselves the authority to be who they were created to be. They're everything to everyone. And a lot of women, their kids go to college, they end up getting divorced, whatever the situation, and then they sit in their house going, who am I? So I think with my film, I really want, to create leverage for women to watch it and go, I can be something greater than who I am right now. I don't have to be everything to everyone. I can be everything to myself.
Right.
And be that woman that God created me to be that powerful. Because listen, without women, no one comes into the world.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
It's because of us that there's even people in the world.
Right.
And so I think it's important that women sit in their power and know that they are powerful, and they can change the world in the gifts that they've been given.
So leverage obviously has a lot of meanings, and it can go different ways.
Right.
When does leverage go too far?
Ooh, I was thinking about that when I was
It's my
preparing
favorite
for this.
question
I
that we get to
know.
ask our guests. I love it.
Well, leverage can go south sometimes because especially when you become someone, all of a sudden you start getting a lot more phone calls.
Yep.
You start getting a lot more, can you do me this favor? Can you, expectations become a thing. Because now with my leverage that I have now as a successful filmmaker, now doing national press, I'm getting a lot more, hey,
Right. Can you help
me do this? When I
introduce me to this
Oh
person?
yeah, no. When I first got my film out, I started getting so many DMs from people. I have this idea. I have this film. I have this. And what people don't understand is you can't come to me with an idea if you don't have the funding to
Right.
back it.
Right.
And that's the one thing people don't get. So I believe that leverage can sometimes go into that negative sort of stressful place in your life where now you feel like people have high expectations that now you have to help them somehow.
As Sally just mentioned, when is taking leverage too far? Well, to her, it was people taking advantage of her, taking and not giving. So are you one of those people? Are you not providing value? Are you taking without giving? Ask yourself that. If you want to grow personally and professionally, I suggest you start giving more than taking. You know what people lose the art of is
Tact?
well, yes, but it's well
Yeah.
said, because what ends up happening is that if our relationship, if I give to you and I just give knowledge, value, resources, whatever, to help you, that's my intent. Not asking for anything in return.
Mm-hmm.
So I decide 5 years from now I'll make a movie,
Right.
and I call you.
Yep.
After our relationship,
Yes.
guess what?
What?
You can be like, how can I help you?
Absolutely.
And if people would give first,
Yes.
that's how you create leverage.
Absolutely.
And most people don't understand, because we're in a taking world. And I teach people this. It's like, if you'll give first, listen, what are their challenges, find out about them, see how you can help them,
Right.
it will come back in spades to you.
Oh, I agree.
It always does.
Yeah, no, I
And
agree with
that's
that.
how I approach relationships. I encourage everyone out there is give first. Stop thinking about yourself. Think about the other person.
Yeah.
So that way, when you want to make a film, you're prepared,
Right.
and you can tap into that resource because you've helped that person.
Right. And along with giving, supporting.
Yes.
You know, when I
That's right.
had a screening last Thursday, the people that showed up for my screening, I'm paying attention.
Right.
You know, I know it takes a lot to get in traffic in LA to drive to Valencia, which is a little bit further.
Sure.
I'm paying attention to those people. And the ones that texted me, the 15, 20 that texted and said, oh, I'm so sorry, something came up, da da da, I'm paying attention to that too.
That's right.
You know?
And I always encourage people, exceed expectations after you
Yes.
meet someone. So, for example, get Sally an Uber to her next meeting, but you do something differently.
Right,
You know,
I
I
love that.
talked about this. I had
Yeah.
a young man come to my office, wanted to get in commercial real estate. He was 22 years old. The best thing he did to get on my radar was he gave me a bottle of wine from my favorite vineyard, favorite grape.
Wow.
Just met me
Thoughtful.
through a resource who introduced him, and I helped him establish his new fund. And so again, if you can give first, it provides great leverage.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, thanks for joining us today
Of
on Leverage.
course.
And
This
it
has
was
been
a
great.
privilege to have you, and we're in New York.
I know,
and-
at the Ritz. It's
and
beautiful
great
here.
view, and
Yeah.
really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I learned a lot from you today.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
It's time to jump out of your comfort zone and start using leverage you have right in front of you. Are you ready to put in the hard work? If you said yes, then what are you waiting for? Let's go out there and own it together.